EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Martin here with your outlook for July 17th, 2019. We are going to have a frontal boundary, the remains of Barry, that are going to move through today. This is not going to be the headlines that we've seen here out in the southern plain states here, and as it moved up through, obviously it was a hurricane at landfall, then it brought some heavy rains to parts of Arkansas and Missouri. This is not what it once was. Okay, so don't want you to get that idea that, oh no, the remnants of Barry are coming. This is not going to be as big of a deal as you would think. But we will have scattered showers and thunderstorms today. I do think it's going to favor northern areas more so than the southern, and I'll get to that in a second. But it's basically turned into a post-tropical low now, so it is not tropical in nature. But what this will do, as it moves through, it's going to enhance rainfall a little bit. So if you get any of these thunderstorms, you will have some locally heavy rainfall and downpours with the storms themselves, but it's not going to be something where it's just sitting over one area for hours and hours and hours. Okay, so it's not one of those situations. These should be moving today. So the center of circulation is actually right over here, as you get in early afternoon, right over Lake Erie, and then you have basically a warm front off to its north and a cold front off to the south. Now, the cold front's not really going to be a cold front by true definition in terms of cold air behind here. There's no cold air behind here, but it is a frontal boundary associated with it, and there is a cold front with it. Most of the activity is going to be across the northern areas today. And as you move through into later in the afternoon, you can see what the global models are doing. They're focusing on this area right in here. Not to say you can't get anything further south, but it'll be more isolated further south, more concentrated further north, and that's going to continue into the overnight as it pulls through. You can see it's right closest to mainly northeast PA and southern New York here as this moves through. Okay, so it's going to pull through, and then by the time we get to Thursday, it's going to be sitting over southeastern New England, and maybe some wraparound showers or a thunderstorm that could occur here on Thursday afternoon before this pulls away. So that's what the global models show. Here's the NAM high-res future simulated radar. This is starting off at noon. Again, most of the activity is sitting up here. As we move through the day, though, you can see storms starting to fire. This is now 4 p.m. You can see some scattered storms over the central and northern areas here. And as we move through time again, look where it's headed. It's basically going on an axis, kind of like from Altoona up to Scranton-Wilkes-Barre. This is like your axis line now. On either side of this, you have some storms on either side here, so it's not just along that line, but that's basically the axis of movement right there. Could be, again, some isolated stuff further south, but it looks like the concentration is going to be up in this area right in here, and everything moving off to the north and east-northeast. And again, some of these could produce locally heavy rainfall as it move through. So these are some heavier cells here. This is a future simulated radar, which is depicting rainfall and rainfall rates. So these darker reds indicate some heavy rain. You will have some heavy rain potential with this. This is now looking at 9 p.m. So again, some stuff down here, but the main show is going to be up in these areas right here, and that's going to move through overnight. Now, overnight, you will get some more activity further south, but it looks like for the concentration of the day here, you're mainly dry across the southern areas. Will be hot and humid today, probably a couple degrees warmer, except we're getting those thunderstorms, a couple degrees warmer than yesterday was, and it was already hot yesterday, kind of lower 90s. Today's lower to middle 90s. Humidity is going to be high today as well. So this is going to be a very hot day, probably hotter in areas that do not get into those storms, like maybe down here by Philadelphia, Lancaster, places like that. You will have the opportunity to see temperatures closing into the middle 90s for highs today. So that pulls through, and again, this goes through the portion of the overnight just after midnight, maybe in the wee hours of the morning here in New Jersey. Tapers off the showers, moves away. Here's a look at Thursday morning. And then we have Thursday afternoon, kind of like maybe mid-afternoon or thereabout, just a few wraparound showers or maybe a thunderstorm moving through in a few spots. These are very widely scattered, kind of like popcorn stuff, popping up here during the afternoon, going into mid-evening, kind of like a mid-afternoon to mid-evening deal. Not as big of a deal here on Thursday with those, with that system pulling away. So that's the breakdown of the remnants of Barry. Okay, that's it. So today's pretty much the main show, and again, mainly for those areas that I circled until we get later into the evening and overnight, then it will spread a little bit further south. So going forward from this point, we are going to be hazy, hot, and humid, and oppressively hot after this point. Once we get into Friday, We are partly to mostly sunny here on Friday with no precipitation expected, but we are going to be very hot. Temperatures getting up into the middle 90s for many locations, lower 90s further north. And once we get into Saturday is probably the peak heating day. Okay, so temperatures are going to be in the mid to upper 90s down here by Philadelphia. We're forecasting a high of 100 degrees. That is not the only story, though. With that combined heat and humidity together, we're going to have heat indices easily everywhere over 100 degrees for both of those days. Actually going through Sunday as well. We'll get to that in a second. But heat indices will be over 100. Some areas will be over 100, between 105 and 110 on Friday, and the 110 and 115 for Saturday for heat index values. That's the apparent temperature, what it feels like with the heat and humidity combined with those dew points. And then Sunday, we're going to leave an isolated thunderstorm in the forecast for some areas late in the day, but I think it's going to be another hot day. Once again, temperatures generally the mid-90s for highs. Maybe a little bit less north where you get those storms late in the day to save you a little bit. And further southeast where you do not get the storms, you're probably still in the mid to upper 90s for highs here on Sunday. So most of the day is dry, just a late day, isolated thunderstorm coming through. And then we get into Monday, we have a more concentrated area of scattered showers and thunderstorms moving through as a cold front works its way through the region. And it looks like we're going to have a pretty much a very cloudy day, so probably mostly cloudy, and then the scattered showers and thunderstorm threat that goes through straight through the daytime hours here. So I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of sun here, and because of that, you're going to have the temperatures in check and probably kept in the mid to upper 80s for highs here on Monday. And then once that front goes through, we get a refreshing northwesterly breeze here on Tuesday, partly cloudy skies, temperatures near to slightly below average. Might even have temperatures that are only getting to maybe 80, 82 degrees for highs here in some places on Tuesday, probably closer to the middle 80s further south and east, but still with that lower humidity, it'll be very welcomed as we go through after we come out of this heat wave that is expected, especially this weekend. We're going to have some really oppressive heat and humidity across the region. I'm EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Marchers. That is your outlook for July 17th, 2019.